So look, if you want to grow your wealth, your income, and increase the amount of time off, then these are the shortcuts that can help. Welcome to the Wealth Creation Podcast. And good morning, everybody. It's Dan Latto speaking. Hope you're well this morning. Today's Wednesday, 13th of March, 2019. So in this podcast, we're going to talk to you about a J.O.B. and a side hustle and what that means for you in terms of success. So what is a J.O.B.? Well, a J.O.B. means job. And I'm pretty sure you've seen this shortened version of a J.O.B. or if you've gone to a networking event with a speaker, the speaker's on stage and it's going, you've probably got a J.O.B. just over broke. And I laughed at that the very first time I heard it too. But I've since changed my mind about having jobs. And I've had a lot of jobs, by the way. I went from 15 grand to 100 grand in 4 years flat, which is pretty awesome. And I basically did it through going from different job to different job to different job. And as soon as I got a job, I would apply for the next job and I'd go and do interviews and I'd get that one and my income would increase. So I probably went in the space of 3 or 4 jobs in the space of 4 years from 15 grand to 100 grand. And I've managed to work my way up, which is pretty cool. But a lot of people kind of put down the idea of having a job and they poo-poo the idea of having a job because it's just over broke. And it doesn't have to be just over broke. You know, I was looking at some averages yesterday. Average rent, average income, average expenditure on council tax. And they're using these averages throughout the UK to say how little money people actually have left. You've got like 60 quid left at the end of the month after all the bills. And I was like, there's a problem just using averages because the average income does not equal the average rent. Like, it just doesn't work like that. It just, how does that work? Just doesn't work like that. Really wealthy people tend not to rent. Actually, let me rephrase that. Really wealthy people do rent. The people who are trying to be wealthy, who are not who are over between, let's say, 100 grand and 250 grand, or even between 50 grand and £250,000, they buy, right? But whatever that happens to be, it's gonna slew the averages anyway on what people are paying for rent, one way or the other. But I just thought it was really interesting. But the job for J.O.B. just over broke, I used to think that was about right, and now I think I'd rather you have a job than not have a job. I'd rather you be just over broke than broke, because at least being just over broke means you can pay your rent and your gas and your electricity and the food for your kids and that kind of thing, because that's really, really important. Fine, you might not have any money left, but that's why in 2019, you're going to have a side hustle. There's just no way around it. And I don't get what the problem is anyway with having a side hustle. Why would you not have a side hustle? Why would you just not have extra money coming in? Because if you're just over broke and you're just about covering your expenses, you should be working extra stuff. And you could go, well, I shouldn't have to work. Well, you do. That's just tough. And if you do have to work extra just to make sure you're living, then the current job that you're doing, you need to get yourself skilled up. There's no sugarcoating this. If you're in a position where you're only just covering all your bills, you're doing something wrong, right? You're either spending too much, you're not in the right job, you're not educated, you're not skilled, you've not got the skill sets that you're going to need in order to generate more cash for yourself, in which case you need to go and learn something. It's like, I don't understand why people get so upset when I say this. If you're not earning enough money, you need to go and add your value to the marketplace. So we had a conversation with a school teacher a couple of years ago, this one, and I've mentioned this before, and he was like, yeah, well, I'm not making ends meet, and I want to get into property, and I want to do all this wonderful stuff. I'm like, well, you need to go get a side job. And he's like, well, like what? I'm like, I don't know. What are you good at? And he went, oh, I do maths. I'm like, I don't know what you can do with a side job doing maths, tutoring, I guess. But I said to him, I said, well, get yourself a little business. And he said, well, I can't afford to buy a business. I'm like, well, you need to put yourself into a position where you can afford to create something, right? So why did he start washing cars? That was it. He was triggered. How dare you tell me I'm a degree educated professional school teacher? I'm like, dude, I don't give a shit what you are. You're still broke. Obviously, needless to say, the call went downhill from that point. Because some people can't handle the truth. You want the truth, you can't handle the truth. So that's just the way it goes, folks. If you're not earning enough, you need to either stop spending or you need to earn more. It's like, There's no magic waving of a wand to come in and increase your income. Yes, but if Labour get in, they'll increase my wage by 2.5%. Inflation, in other words, so you're no further ahead and no further back. Like, what's the point in that? You're going to have to get yourself a side hustle. So, and people go, well, it's all right for you because you've got this money and you've got income coming in and you never had to work. Yeah, I've had 2 jobs for a long time, right? From the age of like 22 up to the age of 26, I would say, right? Probably younger than that. Probably from, my first job was at, I sound like an old man. My first job was at Asda at £1.67 an hour. Get in. I was 16 years of age, doing jobs on a weekend. And all my mates would take the piss, But then I had money coming in. So I was able to buy stuff. But if you're in a position right now where you haven't got enough money coming in to cover all your stuff, or you're only just covering your stuff, you're going to have to make this one of 2 choices. You either cut back on what you're spending on, or you go do something on the side. I would suggest you go do something on the side, right? It's not your expenses. Let's put this into context. Most problems, by the way, are a problem of context, not a problem of the problem that you're going through. So let's put it this way. Let's say you're earning £2,000 a month, but your expenditure is £2,500 a month. The problem here isn't your expenditure of £2,500. Like, you could probably improve on that, maybe get it below £2,000, but you're still in a shit problem, right? You've still got a problem because you're not, unless you're going to save £2,000 a month and reduce your expenses down to £500, you ain't going to be able to do much, right? So let's put it into context. The context of the problem isn't that your expenses are £2,500. The problem of in this context is that you're not earning £10,000. Now, if you were earning £10,000 and your expenses were £2,500, heck, increase them another £1,000, £4,500. Now you've got £5,500 every single month to start putting into property. That's one property every 6 months. That's £30,000 saved up. That's a deposit. Another £30,000 saved up. That's another deposit. So when we put things into context, it's not the fact that you're not earning, the fact that you're spending too much. The problem is that your income is nowhere near enough. Let's put it into another context. Let's say that your expenses are £5,000 a month, but now you're earning £40,000 a month. Like, who cares about your expenses? Let's double them. It makes no difference. But if you've got an ability, if you've got a skill set to start increasing your income, and by the way, this does not happen overnight. And this is one of the problems, is that we expect this instant result. I've gone on a weekend training course. I just remember Chris Howard, who's a friend of mine now and also one of my mentors. That's where I did all my NLP training through his company and so on. And he was saying, do you get to become a black belt from a weekend course? Do you get to become a black belt from watching the DVD, The Secret of Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt? Do you get to become a black belt from reading 3 books a month? No, you totally don't. It's not an overnight thing that happens. I was having the same conversation about weight loss. I've put on a lot of weight in the last couple of months. And there's a couple of reasons for it to do with grief and that kind of thing, which I'm not going to go into too much or at all. But I put on like 5 kilos in 3 months, right? And my health is suffering for it and I need to do something about it. But I'm not quite there, ready at a point. By the way, summer's coming. So as soon as summer hits, I'll be like, I should have done this months ago. So I have some regret there. But once I do that and I make that decision to start losing that weight again, it's not an overnight thing. And I was saying to my wife just last night, for someone to go from 80 kilos down to 70 kilos in 6 months actually isn't a great way of losing weight. If you were to do that over 2 years, that's perfect. Like, I know everybody wants that weight loss like now, and you do whatever you can to get rid of that. And actually that, for me, didn't actually help because it wasn't sustainable for me long term. So now we need to just relook at that and slow it down. But we don't get there overnight. You don't get from earning £2,000 a month to £10,000 a month overnight. You don't get from being a web designer from not being a web designer to being a web designer overnight. Excuse me. You don't get from affiliate income, from non-affiliate income to affiliate income overnight. That might take you a year. It might take you 5 years. It might take you 10 years. But by the time you get there in, say, 10 years, you look back, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that. And other people are going, I'm not waiting 10 years. I want it now. So they've gone to the next thing and it fails, and we've gone to the next thing and it fails, and goes on to the next thing and it fails, and there's no consistency on doing what they're doing. Because it's going to take you time to build up your reputation. Why do you think we go live every day? because it takes time to build up our reputation. We've been doing lives now for nearly 4 years. Is it 3 years? Actually, I think it's 3 years in June. And we've closed business because of a podcast, but it takes time for that to come through. It's not an overnight sensation. I remember McIntyre, can't remember his first name, but the comedian McIntyre. And he was on Radio 2, and he was saying about the time when he was sleeping in his car, and his wife would be like, just give it up and go. Did his wife say, give it up and get a job? No, I think she always supported him. That was it. I think she always supported him. But that overnight success took him 10 years, longer, 10, 15 years, right? It's not something that's just you wake up one morning and go, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a property investor. Bang, da, 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 da. And you wake up the next day and you've got £10 million worth of property and your income comes in regardless of where you work. It just doesn't work like that. Boy, I wish it did. If only we could make the decision in our mind and then the next day we wake up and we have, whatever it is that we wanted in the first place. It doesn't work like that. It takes work. It takes a lot of work. It takes guts. It takes slug, blood, sweat and tears. All of that. It takes discipline. It takes time management. It takes learning new skills. It takes time away from your family. It takes all of those things, right? But every time I spent time away from my family to go on some training course, I've come back and been more powerful as a person, right? Because I'm adding to the essence that is me through the experiences that I've gone through. But if you're not prepared to go through any of those experiences, you ain't going to get there. It's really as simple as that. And there's a great line in Battlestar Galactica, which I absolutely love. And it's sometimes you've got to roll a hard 6. Now, nobody actually knows what that means. But there's 2 possible meanings. The first one is, is at 12 o'clock, is at 6 o'clock when you're flying your spaceship and you've got to turn a hard 6. You've got to flip yourself back over to shoot the Cylon Raider that's shooting at you. You're flipping a hard 6, got to turn a hard 6. Or it's rolling a hard 6 on the dice. Depending which one you want to go for, I went with the dice. Sometimes you've got to roll the dice and hope you get the 6. Larry Bird, who's 2 points down in a basketball game, he gets the rebound, dribbles to the 3-point line, shoots the 3 and wins the game. And the commentator said, let's roll the dice. Let's see what happens. He's either going to win it and be the hero, or he's going to miss and he's not going to be the hero. And he rolled the dice and he was the hero. Sometimes you've got to roll a hard 6, right? So you've just got to put yourself out there. And you've got to understand that this is not an overnight sensation. This is going to take time for you to get up and running. I've had people come to me and they do 1 month of coaching, and it was on lease options. He has 1 month of coaching, 2 sessions in that month with me personally, and then he's like, right, I've got everything I need. I'll see you later. I'm like, what are you doing after 2 months? Well, what happens when you meet your first obstacle? Like, and you're going to have your first obstacle and you're going to give up, right? Just doesn't make sense to me. You've got to get your job in place and then you've got to get your side hustle in place. And bear in mind that if it is a side hustle, and bear in mind, you can also spend 20 hours a week on your side hustle. I did 40 hours a week at Symphony Kitchens and I worked 20 hours a week at William Hill, all in Leeds. I was doing 60 to 70 hours a week, depending on what else I could get in terms of hours. But that's what helped me get to the position when I was 26 to buy my first property. It took an awful long time to get there because I had to save up money and I had to move jobs and all of that kind of thing. But I got there eventually. But if you're not prepared to, 1, do the side hustle, you ain't going to get there. And 2, if you're not prepared to put the work in, because the amount of work and the amount of hours that you put into that side hustle are directly correlative. They correlate directly. I think I made that word up. They correlate directly to your income, right? Now, they might not correlate directly to your income immediately, but they will directly correlate to your experience, which leads to your income. Most people, remember, right, you get paid twice. Most people, they don't want the first type of payment. You get paid first in experience and you get paid second in money. Nobody wants the experience. Everybody wants the money, but you don't get the money until you've got the experience, which is why you need to start building your side hustle today. Right, that will do us there. Hope that's a good podcast for you. Hope that's something that you're going, oh my gosh, I need to get my side hustle up and running. Let me know, drop me a message, and we'll speak to you on the next podcast. My name's Dan Latto. Take care. Hey, it's Dan here. Thank you for listening. Really appreciate each and every one of you. Please click like or subscribe to the entire podcast.